Hey everyone, welcome back. This is a video on how to assemble bongos, but also put them on a stand like this. I'm going to put this on a stand that I use for sitting playing and also for standing playing. So you can do both with a stand, but I like the stand because it takes all the pressure to hold the bongos away, and it also, for my purposes here as an educator, it makes it easier for you to see what I'm doing because I'm not holding it down in the traditional position. So stands are fun, stands are good, they're useful. So what do we have here? Let me show you the overhead view. I've got obviously my two bongos, small drum, large drum. I've got the separation block, and I've got a couple plates. And you can see that the plates are curved and they go, this way, obviously, with the sides of the drum. I've got my carriage bolts I'm going to use for the center block. And then I've got some lock washers. And I've got regular washers. And I've got my tension nuts, a couple nuts that are 1/2 inch or 13 millimeter. And then I've got my 1/2 inch ratchet over here, which I'll use to tighten it up when we get to that point. All right, and let's get started by getting our block, and of course we're going to put the short end facing down because that's how it fits. And what I'm going to do actually is start over here with threading the carriage bolts through, and notice the square hole that's cut in there. That's why we use carriage bolts. Carriage bolts they're a all thread bolt, and they have a square section down here, and that will go into that square hole, and it will stay like that, right? So it will not turn when we're trying to tighten it down. So I'm just going to thread these through over here. I can find somehow the holes. It's probably not the most efficient way to do it, but I'm just going to put these through a little, and then put the put the center piece in, and then go through the other drum, and then put my other plate on, and then I'm going to just lightly put the bolts on. I'm going to go ahead and put the lock, which way am I going to go? Yeah, lock washer and then regular washer. You could just use lock washers or regular washers. These are really not going to come out because of the curve here. But what I am going to do is just get this started. Let me move this over so you can see a little bit better. So I'm just going to get this loose, get that started so it won't fall off. And by the way, these are not the original carriage bolts. I'm using these because they're longer because I need to put these in. So this is the mount portion that goes onto the drum, and these lock in place, one on each side. Oops. Look at that, you guys. Look what I did. I put the plate on backwards, okay? Don't do that. I'm making a video here, and sometimes we make mistakes. So what do you do when you make a mistake? Do you feel horrible about yourself? No. You chuckle and then you correct it. So let's do that. Turn that around. There we go. Why didn't you guys tell me? I bet some of you were talking to your computer screens right then, right? And you're like, hey, you're doing it wrong. All right, there we go. 20 seconds, and we're back. Okay, so I'm gonna do, like I said, you could really do this any number of different ways with the washers, but I'm just gonna do lock washer, regular washer. Here's my other lock washer. Lock washer, regular washer. Put the nuts on just a little so this whole thing doesn't fall apart. Now, so I need to leave quite a bit of space because these mounts need some room to go in there. this one. Sometimes you need to press on the other side. So we've got those in place. Now we just tighten them down. So I've got my 1/2 inch ratchet. I like this one because I can reach in there at an angle. If you try to use a straight wrench, you can see the problem is that you're not going to be able to get a wrench on there. So you need something that can kind of reach in a little bit more. Let's just get these hand tight for right now. So I'm going to make sure that the carriage bolts over here are seated into that plate, and then I'm going to tighten this up. And that one is not seated. Let me see. There we go. So make sure that they're going into the little square hole over there. And then, so that's all pretty much set up, and now I'm going to crank it down. And I don't want to go nuts here, but I want them pretty snug. So maybe give it a whole, like one turn, one full rotation of tightness. You'll feel it. You can feel the tension. I'm doing a couple pounds of pressure there. Okay, so now we've got our bongos together, and that's really solid. And by the way, as long as we're right at this stage, I've mentioned this before, but I want to reiterate. I had to make sure my thing was recording. I want to reiterate that when you get a set of bongos and you get it out of the box, you get it out of that plastic, they might be loose, right? And that's normal. Instruments are made in factories. A lot of these are made in Asia. All the bongos of the major brands are made in Asia, unless you know that they're coming from a craftsperson who's doing higher end bongos. But they're all made with woods that are going to settle, dry out, shrink over time in the shipping process. You might live in an area that's much drier. A lot of these drums are made in humid, equatorial countries where they have a lot of wood. A lot of these are made from rubber wood, what they call Siam oak. And it's good because it's sustainable, but it does shrink quite a bit, especially when it goes to a temperate zone. So if you're in a temperate zone like I am in California, our humidity is way different than it is in Thailand, where this drum is made. So just know that it's okay. It doesn't mean the drum is broken or anything. Just get in there and tighten up those bolts that are holding the block, all right? And then you're good to go. Now, let's put it on the stand. So I've got this stand, and it's pretty straight ahead, you guys. You can see right now we've got this mount is going to flip over and be here. It's just going to go right on the top. So let's do that. I do want to orient the stand so that I can tip the bongos, towards me. So this is the rotation, right? So I want to have the possibility of tipping the bongos towards me if I want, or maybe away from me. And I can do that a little bit on this stand. The bongos will go away. If I want to have them more in the traditional angled away, position, I could do that. Depends on how I want to use them. For my purposes here at World Drum Club, since I'm demonstrating a lot, I pretty much keep the bongos flat. And that allows the overhead view to be good, and the side view, everything's copacetic with the video production. But if I was playing, depending on the situation, I might want to angle the bongos differently, either towards me or away from me or flat. So just think about that when you're putting the bongos on the stand. I'm going to go ahead and place these like this. So they basically just pop on, and because this part, the mount part, is tight already, this whole thing is going to be tight as soon as I put the bolts in. So I've got a little carriage bolt that is going to go through, and then on the bottom I have a wing nut. I'm going to go ahead and put a washer, even though, to be honest, sometimes I skip the washers on the bottom of this, because if it's upside down, and it's just another thing I have to deal with when I was on the road. These would get set up and torn down every single day. Now I'm going to keep this one loose because I want to get the other side set up before I tighten it all down. But you know what? After a while, you know, there was a guy when I was playing with Yanni. We were moving a lot. You know, sometimes we'd do 5 different venues in a week, and the guy's like, you know what? I'm just gonna skip these washers because you're setting up a lot of gear. We were setting up huge setups. So, you know, a couple washers, it just takes time, and they're gonna get lost anyway. So if you're tearing down, setting up a lot, you know, you just skip the washers. So now, these are, let's get rid of this. We don't need the table or the wrench. These are pretty much set up. They're very high for my position right now, but I'm just gonna go ahead and hand tighten these wing nuts, and then I can adjust the height. Let's see what we got in the overhead. There we go, hello. And now, you know, they're ready to go. I can also, like I said, these are slightly angled away from me. If I wanna, of course, angle them towards me a little, I can do that, or make them flat, whatever I wanna do. All right, but that's one way to put your bongos on a stand. This is one stand. I think this is the Gibraltar bongo stand. I think they still make this one, but there's lots of different systems. They're similar, there's little differences, but having a bongo stand and being able to use the bongo stand for seated position or standing position is a really valuable tool for any hand percussionist. You never know when you might need to be seated if you're doing a show, or you're doing something where you just need access to those bongos and you don't want to pick them up and, you know, put them between your legs and hold them. It might be for miking purposes. A lot of the time, to be honest with you guys, people like to see the instruments. So if you're doing a stage show, you know, it might be more comfortable. Like, to be honest, I like to play cajon, have a couple congas. I might even play cajon and have bongos too, and put the bongos between my legs when I'm not playing the cajon, and have everything kind of in that seated, comfortable, down low position. But that doesn't read well from the audience, right? People are like, what's he doing? What's he doing in there? I can't see anything. So for a show purpose, yeah, people want to see. They want to see the bongos. So we put them up high in front of the congas, or slightly off to the side, so we can see conga playing, bongo playing. You know, everything's up here. Everything's like waist level and up, because it's a show and people want to see what you're doing. So there's different reasons that we would use a stand or not use a stand, but that's how to set it up. All right. If you have any questions or you'd like me to address a different topic, let me know. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being a World Drum Club patron.